All right, evidence. Let's talk evidence.
All right, so we have spoken about this in the past, so we're not going to go too deeply into it, but it is really important to reiterate that at this present time, until new framework plans and all that sort of stuff are out, a functional capacity assessment, I hate to say it, but from an OT, even though other people can do it, the agency really like the OTs doing it. That is gold standard. All right. So if you can and you've got the funding for it, please try and submit a functional capacity assessment.
Yeah. And what are that's like? Is it like 20 hours? They usually say that.
I think that functional capacity assessments have become, quite monopolized in the market, because there's agencies that go, yep, it takes us 20 hours to do a functional capacity assessment. And they bill you 20 hours. Whereas I know for us as support coordination, someone's executive summary of their request, it might take us 2 hours for one person and 15 hours for another person. So general rule of thumb is to allow anywhere from 10 hours to 20 hours. But anything over that, they're taking the piss, to be really honest. That's a lot of hours.
Yeah.
Reports from current providers, so speech, OT, physio, psych. Now, I can't remember if we've got this further on, so I'm just going to say it here. Please, for the love of all things holy, please make sure that your reports are consistent. Please, before asking for reports from your allied health providers, that you sit down by yourself without them and think about, what do I need funded by the NDIS for my child for the next 12 months? I see too much money wasted and too many families just going to their speech pathologist and going, Pippa's plan's ending and I need a report from you. And the speech pathologist goes, great, no worries, leave it with me, which is fine for a progress report, but not when we're doing a plan reassessment. We really, really need consistency. So by you sitting down and going, right, I want fortnightly OT, monthly speech, monthly physiotherapy with an allied health assistant thrown in. We want X hours of in-home support. We'll need this piece of equipment. I think we'll need this piece of low-cost assistive technology. Like, it's really thought out. And yes, your allied health team can feed into that. But the reason you need to look at it as a holistic thing is because then you put it on a platter and then you give it to your team. And you say to your team, this is what I want and this is what I need you to recommend in your reports. And I need you to use this wording. Because the moment that you've got one functional capacity assessment saying that Johnny needs 10 hours a week of occupational therapy, and then you've got one from your community OT or physio saying they only need 5 hours a week, you're stuffed, because the agency can straight away go, well, it's inconsistent and we're obviously going to go with the cheapest option.
Yeah. And I think, so back in the day when I was very new to it, it would be like, okay, get the physio to write a report. These are the goals for physio. But now it's about letting them know, okay, these are her goals that she has with her psychologist, and these are the goals that she has. So everybody is across every single thing that's happening in their care team.
Yeah. And so usually the way to do it is that you still have the physio do their physio goals, but then it's just their recommendations. That's how we've been able to split it, is go, right, this is my physio hat and everything I'm writing. And here are my recommendations for the overall well-being of this child. And that's where they put the support work, the speech, the this, that, and the other. And I also just preface it to the allied health therapist, because some people get quite touchy and they go, well, I don't feel comfortable in recommending speech because it's not my area of expertise. So it's really important that you go, can you please include the recommendations that you feel align with your area of expertise?
Yeah.
Carer and lived experience statement, absolutely can't emphasize the importance of this. Okay, and then we also, so these are just the extra bits that we find at Ali are super, super helpful. So a 24-hour daily task breakdown. When you're dealing with asking for support for little people, the agency is really good at that god-awful term of parental responsibility. So by doing a 24-hour task breakdown, you're demonstrating to the agency how much you're actually doing for your little person. And it clearly starts to, I guess, unravel the whole parental responsibility, because I can, like, sort of with Willow, you can sort of be able to demonstrate, well, at 10, most 10-year-olds are showering independently. You know, I have a 10-year-old and I can't tell you the last time I helped her shower or wash or anything like that. You know, so this is how we're able to create those real definitions, which are in the functional capacity assessment, don't get me wrong, but we just find these 24-hour task breakdowns, they just really hit home a little bit different.
Well, even I was doing one for Willow, and I think yourself, you're so used to doing it that it's just natural. But when you really start to think about it and start putting pen to paper, and it's even blew my mind a little bit of how much I actually do. I think you just forget. And so I started to, for the week, anytime that's something that I wouldn't do for the other two, I would write it down, and it just it added up to so much stuff. So definitely great to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And then evidence of carer exhaustion. Now, this is sort of one of those chicken and the eggs conversations, because you're so exhausted because you can't get time for yourself, and we need the evidence of your exhaustion and all that sort of thing. But if you can, and please don't think this is minimizing anyone's experience, but communicating to the agency that you're exhausted, it's not enough. Right? We need to actually demonstrate that you've gone to your GP and there's those clinical signs of actual harm happening to you, which is related to your caring role. Because any parent talks about being tired, whether you have neurotypical children, disabled children, caring parents, elderly, all that sort of stuff. So being able to demonstrate psychologist and counsellor reports are fantastic. And also, I can't remember the exact name of it, but the Carer Gateway do this carer wellbeing star. It's got a fancy name, but those of you who've done it would know what I'm talking about. And it basically looks at all the life domains and carers' satisfaction of their life in those different domains. That's really good evidence. And then we also use, and I hate the name of it, it's called a carer burden scale. And so all of that stuff, it builds the picture that when we are saying that we are, that the parents are unable to sustain their care, we have to provide the backup of that. Just saying things in this day and age just will not get it across the line.
Yeah. So I guess, mentioning that care impact statement, amazing. But then this sort of backs up everything that you've said. In that.
And then getting your allied health team to even put observations of carer exhaustion in their reports. And it's also then talking about the risks, because what's the risk to our little person if mum needs to go to hospital? You know, how does that work? But again, differentiating, because mum going to hospital is going to impact the entire family. But what is the disability specific support to your child that NDIS needs to fund if you were to go to hospital? And that's the nuance. And that's always the bit of the missing piece. So roster of care. So this is for more of our complex kids. So in terms of demonstrating, so if you go, I want, 20 hours a week of in-home support. For my child, the agency will probably laugh at you, depending, of course, on each situation. So we provide a roster of care which shows this is when the support workers would be in. This is where mum and dad would be at the time. And these are the roles that the support worker will be undertaking during those times.
Yeah.
And obviously quotes for supports and equipment. So gone are the days of us getting that nice little $500 consumables budget that we used to be able to spend quite flexibly. If you think you want NDIS funding for it, you need to supply evidence and quotes for it. And school and medical documents. So this is really good in terms of where you've got epilepsy is probably a really good example, I think, of the agency and health systems going, well, no, it's a disability, and NDIS saying, no, it's a health condition. So this is where we would generally get a seizure management plan and things from a neurologist, for example, to demonstrate that whilst the epilepsy is being managed medically by neurology, here's the functional impact of the epilepsy, which is impacting on this person's ability to live their life. And that's then when it falls under NDIS.
Yeah.
So my other top tips, which I've already gone into, is be specific. Be so specific about exactly what you need and why you need it. Link all the supports to your child's disability. Cannot emphasize this enough, okay? It needs to be linked, and it needs to be disability specific, everything you do. Show urgency if it's time sensitive. So if, your little person's starting school next year, this needs to be done sooner rather than later. And make sure all providers recommend the same thing. So this is just a bit of a recap slide. And keep copies of everything you submit. So what I do is in my email, I go, please find attached change of situation, plan reassessment documentation for Johnny. And then we list, some of our participants, we submit 80 plus documents. And so we go from 1 to 80 and we list everything that is attached to the email. And then we also give every attachment a number as well. So if it's, Willow's functional capacity assessment, it would say 1. Willow's functional capacity assessment, 2. Speech pathologist report. So it's very, very clear, and it helps when or if you go for that information access request, because then they have to write what evidence they looked at to consider and make their decision. And so if you're not seeing your functional capacity assessment